ඔෆිස් එකේදී විතරක් නෙවෙයි මම දැන් ගෙදරදිත් IDD calls ගන්න SLT phone එකේ.
ඔබේ නිවසේ SLT දුරකථනය දැන් IDD පහසුකම සහිතයි.
Making headlines first at 9. Awarded for excellence. TV Derana takes home multiple awards at the 14th Raigam Tellies. Narrow shave. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe reveals how UK's controversial data analytics firm Cambridge Analytica approached him ahead of 2015 elections.
Cambridge Analytica came and canvassed me also to get work from the UN people.
China phobia. Former Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa in an interview with foreign media says India should study the situation in Sri Lanka before jumping into conclusions. In business, economic growth and prospects, Central Bank Governor Dr. Indrajit Kumaraswamy says political stability a must.
No country has been able to progress without political stability.
In sports, paying the price, Australian captain and vice-captain stepped down over ball tampering row. Good evening and a warm welcome to First at 9 Other Derana's primetime English news broadcast. Tonight we have news from overseas centering the detention of fugitive Catalan ex-leader, and here at home, politics surrounding corruption and party coalitions. But first, we take a look at developments covering Cambridge Analytica, UK-based political consultancy firm, revealed to have been entangled in several scandals surrounding elections. Well, the recent expose by Channel 4 News showed how democratization is manipulated by the UK-based political consultancy firm Cambridge Analytica by using data of over 50 million social media users. The expose was done by undercover reporters of Channel 4 who posed as fixers for a wealthy client hoping to get a political candidate elected in Sri Lanka. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe yesterday revealed that Cambridge Analytica had in fact confronted the UNP to provide services for elections.
The 44th convention of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka was held yesterday under the patronage of Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. Their president-elect of the association, U.R. De Silva, was inducted for the year 2018 and 2019.
Discussions are being held with the Ministry of Justice as to the possibility of providing transcription of recording the proceedings as a solution to delays in court proceedings, and to introduce a pre-trial stage before day-to-day trial procedure is being implemented.
Those delays eroded the confidence in the judiciary and the legal system. The judiciary nor the profession is not solely responsible for the delays. There were so many other factors. In fact, Parliamentary Oversight Committee looked into that matter, found that it is necessary to increase the number of courthouses and increase number of judges, and also to give better facilities and remuneration to the judiciary and Attorney General's Department, Legal Draftsman Department and other departments involved in the administration of justice. Parliament amended the law to increase the number of High Court judges, taken steps to increase the salaries and allowance of judges.
The government is committed to the computerization and the bringing of IT into the court system, because the government is committed to ensuring that the breakdown of law and order which took place in the beginning of the month will not be repeated again. When this whole episode was over, it was a time for us of how we rebuild ourselves and recreate a Sri Lankan identity, and what is the basis of our national unity. And ensure that the perpetrators are brought before justice, that we don't shield anyone. But that is not enough. How do we prevent this? This cannot be done only through law. There must also be social action, or the whole cyberspace is a new area for legislation. The Attorney General Department, and we are talking on it. Secondly is, how do you take action on the social media? I must say Cambridge Analytica came and canvassed me also to get work from the UNP. Fortunately, we did not use the services of Cambridge Analytica. There has to be some effective patrolling.
Moving on, former Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa expresses that the current Indian government is looking at the country differently and added that India has to come out of their China phobia with regard to its relationship with Sri Lanka. He also added that the country feels that there is unnecessary influence by the Indian government in its internal affairs. These remarks were made as part of the second installment of interviews about the Rajapaksas with the Indian Express published on its website today. In its first installment of an interview with the media publishing agency yesterday, former President Mahinda Rajapaksa spoke on the much scrutinized relations between India, Sri Lanka and China, where he said that India had reservations about his government and is expecting it to change.
In his interview with media publishing agency The Indian Express, former Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa spoke on the geopolitical situation in the region, the changing character of the Indian diplomacy, his political life and his involvement during the war. The former Defence Secretary, responding to a question on the current relations between the two countries, stated that in diplomatic relationships, one cannot replace empowered diplomats with intelligence officers, and India has to come out of its China phobia with regard to its relationship with Sri Lanka. Gotabaya Rajapaksa also stated that the current Indian government, especially the bureaucrats of the Narendra Modi government, looks at Sri Lanka differently without proper understanding, and Sri Lankans feel there is unnecessary influence from the Indian government in its internal affairs. He said the Indian government has to be more concerned about this and study the situation rather than act in haste. The former Defence Secretary was also asked about Sri Lanka achieving peace after a decade of war, to which he said that he considers the post-war developments in Sri Lanka a bigger victory than defeating the LTTE. But that has not been recognized by international organizations as well as the international community. He also added that peace does not come overnight and that there are people who were brainwashed ideologically. Furthermore, he strongly believes economic freedom for people is what's important, before talking about political freedom, and Tamil politicians put their political interests above the essential needs of people. The media publishing agency questioned the former Defence Secretary on the charges made against him on the killing of civilians during the war, to which Gotabaya Rajapaksa said that he knows he has done nothing wrong and that it was not him who created the war but ended it, and now Sri Lanka is a free country. When asked if there were any last-minute negotiations with the LTTE before the end of the war, he said that he does not believe in negotiations with the LTTE as it would have been a waste of time. Meanwhile, in the first installment of the interview, which was published on their website yesterday, former President Mahinda Rajapaksa gave his views on the economy of the country and Sri Lanka's links with India and China. The former president told the Indian Express that he believes that although the present government of India has had reservations about his government in 2014, they will now look at things differently, and it is their aim to have cordial relations with both Congress as well as the BJP-led government. Furthermore, when asked about his reaction on Sri Lanka's increasing ties with China and the country's growing investments in the Indian Ocean region, the former president stated that there was no intention to betray India and added that the relationship with China during his tenure was purely economic.
And in focus, India, Sri Lanka, China, regional geopolitics and the role Sri Lanka plays in this. We wish to discuss further on the two interviews that the Indian Express had conducted with the former President Mahinda Rajapaksa as well as the former Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa in two installments. And we've invited to studio a veteran diplomat and political scientist, analyst, Dr. Dayan Jayathilaka, who is the permanent representative to the United Nations in Geneva, representing Sri Lanka. Dr. Dayan Jayathilaka, good evening and a warm welcome. It's nice to have you here to discuss on these matters. You were a key diplomat in the Rajapaksa regime during the time when former President Mahinda Rajapaksa his regime was in power, and you were closely with key politicians in that regime. When these interviews were out, I think this gives us, takes our attention away to some key political insights into regional geopolitics and Sri Lanka's involvements in the two superpowers of the region, China and India. What have you got to say from your experience in the former regime?
Well, I think that what's most important is the fact that one of the most prestigious newspapers in India and in Asia, the Indian Express, chose this moment to reach out to former President Mahinda Rajapaksa and former Secretary of Defence Gotabaya Rajapaksa. That tells me that there's a new cycle beginning in the relationship between the Delhi elite or the Delhi establishment and the Rajapaksas. Now, certainly during the first Rajapaksa term, the term during which Mahinda Rajapaksa and Gotabaya won the war, relations were handled exceedingly well between Sri Lanka, India and China. The Sri Lankan government balanced the relationship between India and China superbly. It wasn't just India and China, but India, China, Pakistan, even the United States of America to a lesser degree. But in the second term, mistakes were made both by the Rajapaksa government and by India. So I think that we are starting a new cycle in which both sides have learned from their errors and are signaling each other, reaching out to each other. Of course, the Indian Express is not a government paper, but it is a paper read by every Indian Prime Minister, and it is sensitive and responsive to the tendencies and the mood of the Indian establishment. So I think reaching out to the Rajapaksas at this moment is a very significant move that has been made, and I think the Rajapaksas have also said things that are quite interesting and revealing.
Right, and when the former president mentioned that the Indian government will change how they viewed Sri Lanka, and also the former defense secretary, he mentioned that the Modi government officials look at Sri Lanka differently without understanding. Now, these are key statements too, because there was a time when Sri Lankan relations with India was dubbed to have been soured. How would you look at this, Dr. Jayathilaka?
Well, there were two issues. One issue has been amply covered by the interviewer and by former President Rajapaksa and former Defense Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa. That's the India-China equation. But there was another issue, and that was the 13th Amendment. Now, certainly it was President Rajapaksa who finally had an election to the Northern Provincial Council after 30 years. It was a free and fair election. But it was in 2013. Now, had this election been held as the war ended in 2009 or even 2010, as had been promised by the administration to the Indian government of the day, which was the Congress government, then perhaps some of the problems could have been averted. But that wasn't done. So I think there was this second problem, which still has to be dealt with, both by the Rajapaksas and by Delhi. But the introduction of the Indian Express to the interview with President Mahinda Rajapaksa, former President Rajapaksa, is very interesting because it talks about the stunning victory obtained by the Rajapaksa-led SLPP joint opposition at the recent election. So I think that Delhi is perceiving a very strong comeback by the Rajapaksas. It also sees former President Rajapaksa as a key player and has spotted Gotabaya Rajapaksa as a potential player in a future administration. So that's why I think there is this interest in the Delhi establishment, as reflected by the Indian Express, in these two Rajapaksa brothers.
Right. I have two brief questions to you, Dr. Jayathilaka, because we're pressed for time. I think linking to your statement just now, there was a question posted to former Defense Secretary about any possibility of his entry to politics. Your thoughts and insights, because he had mentioned, well, he would continue to do what he was doing back then when he was the former Defense Secretary. And also, as a former diplomat, as a key player in the former regime in terms of foreign policy, there was a time when there were opinion statements and articles which stated that Dr. Jayathilaka was more apt to be the foreign minister.
What?
And this is what we read on newspapers. But what do you think about Sri Lanka's future foreign policy and the way forward, given your expertise, and especially at a time when China and India have become increasingly involved in Sri Lankan politics and Sri Lankan development?
Well, you asked me about Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa. I think former President Rajapaksa answered that question or preempted it in his interview when he said that he will lead the campaign at the next presidential election in support of whoever the joint opposition and the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna happen to pick as the candidate. I think the reality is that Mahitha Rajapaksa will be the one who has the veto over that decision. He's the one who will make that decision, and he's a consensus player. He'll calculate the consensus within the JO. Certainly Gotabaya Rajapaksa is one of his options, one of his front runners, but he's not the only option. I think it will depend on how former President Rajapaksa perceives the situation later next year when the presidential election is due. Now, about Sri Lanka's foreign policy, I think that Sri Lanka always has to maintain an excellent relationship with its only neighbor, India, which is a subcontinent, after all. But it also has to maintain excellent relations with one of its closest friends and allies, China, which is the rising superpower, rivaling a United States and the West that is in relative and slow historical decline. So India and China, this equation will have to be managed and balanced by any Sri Lankan administration. And if it's the Rajapaksas, they'll have to do as well as they did in their first term and avoid the mistakes of their second term.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Dayan Jayathilaka, Sri Lanka's former permanent representative to the United Nations in Geneva. Thank you very much for your time and insights on Ada Derana 24/7, First at 9. We move on to other local stories. Tonight, on First at 9, Minister of Home Affairs Wajra Abegunawardena today informed in his capacity as the UNP chief organizer for the Galle electorate that strict disciplinary action will be taken against UNP members of the Galle Municipal Council who cast their votes in favour of a mayor who represented the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna. Meanwhile, parliamentarian Nimal Lanza responded to allegations levelled against him regarding the appointment of mayor of the Negombo Municipal Council.
Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna was able to appoint its member Derana Lanza as the new mayor for the Negombo Municipal Council on Friday, in which the UNP secured power during the recent local authorities election. Derana Lanza is the brother of UPFA parliamentarian Nimal Lanza. Convening a media briefing yesterday, the mayoral candidate representing the UNP, Royce Fernando, alleged that the UNP members of the council were influenced to vote for the newly elected mayor.
We are not afraid to say that they bought over 5 SLFP members with their black money. We also have the recordings which prove that Nimal Lanza and his gang tried to offer money to UNP members. We can show them any time. This is not a legal appointment.
However, UPFA parliamentarian Nimal Lanza responded to these allegations today.
The entire country knows that he is a fraudster and it is him who makes all of these allegations. SLFP members were advised to discuss among themselves to cast votes for a person of the majority choice. So 5 out of 6 SLFP members decided to join hands with the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna and appoint a deputy mayor from their party. SLFP and SLPP joined together at this occasion, but none of the UNP members joined hands with us.
Meanwhile, disciplinary action is to be taken against all UNP members who cast their votes in favour of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna mayoral elect for the Galle Municipal Council. Issuing a statement today, Minister Wajra Abegunawardena informed in his capacity as the UNP chief organizer for the Galle electorate that the 7 members who voted in favour of the SLPP mayoral elect have failed to comply with the viewpoint of the party. The UNP won the majority of the Galle Municipal Council in the recent local authorities election. Despite the win, however, Priyantha Sahabandhu of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna was elected as the mayor for the council on Friday following a secret ballot.
Still in local news, leader of the Sri Lanka Muslim Congress, Minister Rauf Hakim, states that he is doubtful of continuing the political journey as an alliance with the United National Front any longer. He made this comment during an event held in Colombo today.
Candidates of Sri Lanka Muslim Congress who were elected through the recent local authorities election took oaths today at their party headquarters.
I have asked the Prime Minister to nullify the new election system and to bring the old system back into effect. Problems are on its way for the Muslim community due to the delimitation report. We have clearly conveyed to the UNP leadership that we have faced injustice due to contesting in union with the UNP. These things will affect us in continuing a journey of trust with the UNP. The Muslim Congress should definitely contest alone following the issues in Ampara. We should receive the mayoral positions of local authorities where we won a majority. We will take necessary legal action if somebody is trying to sabotage it by uniting with others. We lost some of our electorates due to sacrifices that we had to make. Our focus now is to develop our party and to move forward.
You are watching Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Derana 24/7.
At the star-studded Raigam Tele's 14th annual ceremony held at the Nelumpokuna Theatre last evening, TV Derana clinched many awards including the Best Investigative News Reporting, Best Political Discussion Television Programme and the award for the Best Musical Programme.
The 14th edition of the Raigam Teles was held in Colombo yesterday with the participation of various distinguished guests, artists and performers. Dinendra Ransiri of Derana clinched the Best Investigative News Reporting category award for his piece Exposure of the Murder of Dalapur Tua and the Tusk Pearl Racket uncovered by Derana Ukussa. Vadapitiya, produced by Kaushalya Desanayaka, won the Best Political Discussion Television Programme of the Year. Sinhagiri Studio, produced by Chintaka Gamlat, won the award for the Best Musical Programme of the Year. Diluka Gunatilaka won the award for the Best Single Episode Drama, Supahan Sita, telecasted by TV Derana. Maureen Charuni was honoured by the jury for her performance as Nirmala in Supahan Sita. Madhushankar Iroshan of Derana was also honoured by the jury for his piece Traditions of the Temple of the Tooth Relic, telecasted under the programme series Urumeya Soya. Nayanthara Vikramarachi won the Popular Actress of the Year award for her performance in Devani Inima, telecasted by TV Derana. The award for Popular Actor was clinched by Thumindu Dodanthanna for his performance in the TV series Kumbio. Mahendra Pereira was honoured as the Best Actor, while Nadika Mellavira won the award for the Best Actress.
And in business news, Governor of the Central Bank, Dr. Indrajit Kumaraswamy, reiterates that political stability of a country is of paramount importance for economic progress. Speaking further, he noted that Sri Lanka's gross official reserves will exceed over $8 billion by the end of this year, sufficient to cover outstanding debt. The governor also had an optimistic approach when referring to the recent passage of the Active Liability Management Bill.
Central Bank Employees Union celebrated their 75th anniversary in Colombo yesterday. The occasion was graced by the Governor of the Central Bank, Dr. Indrajit Kumaraswamy.
As far as I know, no country has been able to progress without political stability. The government has to be able to function effectively. For that to happen, you need political stability. So that is of paramount importance.
The governor noted that a significant part of the increase of gross official reserves from 2016 to 2017 is not driven by rapid export growth, but by borrowings.
Sri Lanka's gross official reserves went up from 6 billion at the end of 2016 to 7.97 billion at the end of 2017. A significant part of that increase was due to borrowing. It wasn't driven by rapid export growth. And also the central bank was able to buy dollars from the economy. We bought about net $1.6 billion. And we are hopeful that by the end of this year, we can increase reserves to about $8.5 billion, which we have to do to meet the external debt payments that are coming up ahead of us.
The governor also commented on the passage of the Active Liability Management Act.
The passage of the Active Liability Management Act in Parliament gives us the headroom and flexibility to manage that debt more effectively going forward. So that is an encouraging step.
And the Colombo equities market analysts expect an improvement in foreign participation and an increased buying interest, particularly in undervalued blue-chip counters. During the week, the SPI and the S&P SL20 lost 1.01% and 1.53% respectively, while recording an average daily turnover of 729 million rupees.
We expect the market to continue to move sideways as market participants are likely to adapt a wait-and-see approach ahead of the policy announcement on 4th April. We expect foreign participation to improve and the foreign selling to be eased off following last week's Fed rate hike. Also expect improved buying interest, especially in the undervalued large blue chip counters. The profit taking will likely to be seen in the retail counters.
Headline-making world news, Catalonia's ex-leader Carles Puigdemont has been detained by German police after acting on a European arrest warrant. Puigdemont, who is wanted in Spain for sedition and rebellion, was held crossing from Denmark on the way to Belgium.
German police have detained the former Catalan President Carles Puigdemont as he crossed from Denmark into Germany. The Spanish government reactivated an international arrest warrant for Puigdemont day before yesterday, who is wanted on charges of sedition, rebellion and misuse of public funds. The former president, who has been living in self-imposed exile in Brussels since last October, was in a car on the way from Finland to Belgium when he was detained. Puigdemont faces up to 25 years in prison in Spain on charges of rebellion and sedition for organizing an illegal referendum for Catalonia that led to a unilateral declaration of independence in October.
You are watching Sri Lanka's #1 news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
Well, as big match fever hit over the weekend, we have news from matches played between Mahanama College, DS Senanayaka, two schools from Ratnapura playing their first ever big match, and Trinity College versus St. Anthony's Kandy.
The 12th Battle of the Goals one-day encounter between DS Senanayaka College and Mahanama College was won by the latter by Duckworth-Lewis method. Batting first, DS Senanayaka College scored 236 in their allotted 50 overs, and Mahanama College, who were on 213 for 5 in 47 overs, won in the end by Duckworth-Lewis method. Meanwhile, the 38th Hill Country Battle of the Blues between St. Anthony's College, Kadugastura and Kandy's Trinity College saw the latter win by a whopping 149 runs. Trinity College, batting first, put on a massive total of 305 for 7 and bowled out their opposition in 41 overs for just 156. The inaugural big match between Ratnapura St. Aloysius and Prince College ended in a draw yesterday. Prince College scored 244 in the first innings, while St. Aloysius were bowled out for just 120 in their first innings. The match ended with Prince College on 110 for 8 in their second innings.
Well, in world cricket headlines, Australia's captain Steve Smith has been banned for one match and fined his entire match fee by the ICC for his part in a ball tampering incident in the third test against South Africa.
Australia captain Steve Smith has been given a one-match ban and fined 100% of his match fee for his part in a ball tampering incident during the third test against South Africa in Cape Town. Australia opener Cameron Bancroft has been fined 75% of his match fee and handed 3 demerit points after he was caught on camera tampering with the ball on day 3 of the test.
The leadership group knew about it. We spoke about it at lunch, and I'm not proud of what's happened.
Earlier, Cricket Australia announced Smith and David Warner were removed as captain and vice-captain of the Australia team for the remainder of the test against South Africa following the ball tampering revelations plunged the test team into crisis. Smith and Warner, however, will still take the field for the last 2 days of the test in Cape Town, with wicketkeeper Tim Payne taking over the captaincy.
A very good forecast first. Well, tomorrow will relatively be a warmer day with temperatures ranging between 20 and 32 degrees Celsius, with the lowest yet again expected in the Central Hills. We're looking at the map. A low pressure zone will form from the east of the island and will spread throughout the country. Well, less sunshine reported in the island tomorrow, as many areas of the country, including Jaffna, Mannar, Vaunia and Anuradhapura, coming a bit down, Kandy, Colombo, Galle and Matara as well as Hambantota will also experience showers and thunder showers. That's all we have from the Weather Centre tonight. Up next is your city by city forecast.
And before we wrap up tonight's edition of the news, we'd like to show you how countries around the world and iconic sites went dark last night as a symbolic gesture for the 11th annual Earth Hour celebration. The Eiffel Tower, New Delhi's Great Arch, Petronas Towers in Kuala Lumpur, St. Basil's Cathedral in Moscow were some of the iconic sites that went dark. It is celebrated as a global call for international unity on the importance of addressing climate change. Enjoy the visuals. Have a pleasant evening. Good night.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.